Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bantz with Lawrencia. How are you all doing? I hope you're doing great. Now, last weekend was my birthday and I had dinner with some of my friends, and one of the conversation that came up was my previous video, which I talked about investment in Nigeria and investment in the diaspora. And before I even go ahead, Naira to dollar is currently 1,500, and Naira to pounds, £1 to a Naira is almost 2,000 Naira. So do that as you may, whatever you please with that. Now, going back to the conversation. So we were talking about the whole thing. Some people believed it is very good to invest in Nigeria. Some people believed it was, good to invest in the diaspora. But one thing I learned from that conversation was that people were investing back home based on things that happened in the past. Let's say if you had an uncle or auntie who traveled previously or a couple of decades ago, what they normally do is they come back home, they invest their money. But the reason why they were doing that was not clear. Now, what I understood was that the reason why people did that back then was because some of them travel illegally. Some of them, they believe that this is not where they want to be. They want to go back home because then Nigeria economy was much better. Some of them, because they traveled illegally, they had to send everything back home in case they get deported so that all their assets will be in Nigeria. Now, these are some of the reasons why people do this. Some of them do that because they have their families in Nigeria, and let's say they come here or travel, get married back home. So whatever they have, like let's say family, like your home is where your family is, like your nuclear family. So they send these things back home, which is understandable. But in this present day and age, most time people travel with their spouses, their children, or people come here single and they get married here, settle down here. Yes, you still have families back home. Yes, you still have parents back home, but the problem is not settled here and then you're trying to build mansions in Nigeria. That was the whole conversation. Now, as this whole conversation was going on, somebody made mention of a tweet that one guy was talking about. Now, according to the man, he was living with his girlfriend. He earned more than the girlfriend. Like, he was doing much more better than the girlfriend. And as such, he was paying 70% of the bills. No problem. He didn't have an issue with it and all that. So during the pandemic, she suggested that they could move to a place where they could have gardens. Instead of staying in a flat, they could stay in a house where they could, go out, have gardens and all that. Like, have activities to do instead of just being confined in a flat. He was like, yeah, just go ahead, do what you have to do. I don't want to get involved. As long as, we're not paying more than what we're currently paying, that is fine. So she went, she got a house, she made a whole arrangement, he signed tenancy agreements, and even the house, according to him, looked more expensive than the one that they were living in. But because she said it's still the same amount of money they are paying, he did not bother about it. He was like, no problem. They moved into the house. Now, in 2024, this January, he said he was just sitting down, working from home when she was not home, and a letter came in. He picked it up and he saw a mortgage, nationwide mortgage. He was like, what? And her name was on the letter. He was like, what? What do you mean mortgage? He opened the letter and lo and behold, the house that they moved in 2020, she bought the house. And he has been paying 70% of the bills. Now, he came on Twitter to complain, to say, okay, he's going to break up with her, definitely, but should he be asking for all the monies that he's paid? Because he looked at the documents, basically 2020 to 2024, the house had jumped, equity had increased, she was paying, because she was getting 70%, she was literally paying down her mortgage. He couldn't believe his eyes, what he saw on those documents, and he wanted his money back. Now, he signed a tenancy agreement. She was so smart. She made sure that she went through an agency, but nationwide, they have to send you a yearly mortgage statement, which maybe she's been receiving since maybe 2021, but because she was always home getting those letters before he gets to them, he was not able to see it. Now, before I get into this conversation, I'm going to play you a video response from a guy who saw the video. This is what he has to say, and watch this.
I see some video on the internet of some man complaining, saying that his girlfriend scammed him because she encouraged him to get a new build flat, an expensive new build flat out. He's gone into it thinking that they're renting together. He's agreed to paying 70% of the payment. She's only paying 30%. And then later on, he found out that it's her flat that she mortgaged. And you know what I say to that man and to all the other men who are in that situation? Serves you right, you big babies. Serves you right, you big babies. You, man, love going into... I don't know what it's like in other parts of England, but in London, there's bare man that go into relationship dynamics with women like they're your mum. Your relationship with your woman is set up in a way where it's like she's your mum. She's running around sorting out everything. She's the one who's had to build her credit score. She's the one who saved money, and she's on the phone to the mortgage brokers and the banks. She's out here comparing the market, flicking through the best utilities, and she's got all the standing orders and the direct debit set coming out of her account. And you, man, just because you're putting your hand in your pocket from your employment and putting some money into her hand, you lot feel like you're a man. You're not a man, you're a big baby. You are a big baby in this country. That's the truth. I'm talking like this because everything in my life, my flat, my home insurance, my car insurance, all my utility bills, everything's in my name, everything comes out of my account. Do you know why? Because that's responsibility, bro. Do you get what I'm saying? You man are out here getting finessed by women and then complaining on the internet. Have some pride, man. Serves you right. Go restart. You need to reboot and do it again, but do it again like a man and stop trying to be a baby.
Now, this is one of the factors. I believe that they were dating, they were not married. He was earning way more than what she was earning, and he was happy with it. He didn't mind. They've been living together, paying rent, and he didn't have a problem with that. I believe that maybe when she wanted to get that house, she was like, okay, what would you think us getting a property? And maybe because he didn't feel this is somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with, he kind of discarded that conversation, and she went ahead to get that house. Now, for you to get, I have a mortgage with Nationwide, and I know how thorough they are. If you cannot afford that house, as a thing, if your name alone is on that property, you have to be able to afford the mortgage. So whether he is paying the mortgage or not, that house is within her affordability. She can afford it. Even if he picks up tomorrow and leave, unless you lose a job, then that is a different conversation. But him thinking that, oh, she used him, I don't necessarily think that's the case, because I find it funny when people are happy to pay rent. Then when they realize that, okay, that rent you're paying is actually going to somebody you know, they start feeling some kind of way. The more rent you're paying to somebody else is also paying somebody else's mortgage. So why would you feel some type of way when we're living together and you're paying you're paying my mortgage? I don't understand that. You know, it's so crazy, because I believe that this lady actually told him, let us get a house. This is the pandemic. You know, he is telling his own side of the story. He will make it favorable to him. He wouldn't say, oh, she approached me and said, let's get a house, and I refuse to do that. For the fact that he said, you go do this whole thing, get it sorted, get the house, I am happy to. As long as it's still within our budget that we're currently paying, I am happy to move into the new place. And she did that. She got a place. They moved in. He was even saying that when they moved in, he was thinking, this is more expensive than what we're currently staying, but it's still the same thing that I am paying. So where is the anger and frustration coming from? I've also had a similar story of married people in the UK here, where the wife is like, let's get a property. The husband will be like, no, I want to build this in Nigeria, I want to build that in Nigeria, I want to have a land in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. They want to do all these things, and the lady is saying, okay, let us get a house. This lady practically brought the deposit and said, let's move in. And the guy said, no, so that I'll come and be paying mortgage, so that you take the house and all that. He blatantly refused. He was happy to pay rent. What this lady did was that she contacted a broker, got a house, gave it to an agency to manage, and then rented from the same agency. It was so funny. And he was happy. He was happy with it. He was building his houses in Nigeria, doing everything that he wanted to do. He was a happy husband until this lady fell out with one of her friends who now came and told the husband, do you know that the house you're living in is owned by your wife? That was where all hell was let loose. Now this man was threatening to sue, was doing everything, but she bought everything under a company. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything because the people, the beneficiary of everything, she planned everything out. The kids were the sole beneficiaries, and he could not do anything. He was threatening to sue, threatening to do this one, threatening to do that one. Okay, you want to move out, you're free to move out. She said she's going to stay in her house. So this has been happening. I remember another story in Nigeria where this lady got married to this man. He was a high profile contractor. They were living together happily. He was providing everything. She got married immediately after her youth service, so he was the sole provider. He was providing for everything. In fact, she said that because he used to travel a lot, so he would buy things in bulk and keep in the house. He will not even give her money to say, okay, like, you know how you give somebody money knowing they will use it to do other things apart from excess money, apart from what you want them to use it for. He will make sure he calculates everything and give it to her. This lady wanted a business. He said, no, sit down, take care of the children. What do you want to do business for? I provide everything. I did it. But when she was in school, she was into all this event planning. People knew her for that. Like, she had that golden touch where once she gets into your event, she will make it, pop. So she started contacting, after 3 kids, she started contacting those people back because the husband was not always, in fact, then he now had a side chick that he was always staying with. Whenever he comes back from one of his jobs, he would just go there and stay. So she was more like a single mother, but she was being financially abused because she could not be her own person. She could not do anything apart from what, he wants her to do. So she contacted some of those of her friends and said, listen, I'm back in the game. If you have parties, let me know, but just keep it coded. This lady started this business. Before you know, like, she was organizing big parties, making money. She was just keeping her money because this man is always traveling. He didn't even know what was going on. He did not know. She was still living modest. She had people who were working for her. She built one house, built 2 houses. At that point, this was like 10 years after her kids were in secondary school. Then the guy lost his job and took all his money. He was planning with the girlfriend to travel. This girl, he took all the money, gave it to the girl and said, okay, do the whole arrangement because I don't want my wife to know about it. This girl took the money and traveled alone. This guy was crying. He has lost his job. He did not have any money. And then he was now blaming the wife. That if the wife had been, industrious enough, she would have been doing this, doing that. She got frustrated. At this point, she was a multi-millionaire with properties at this point. But he didn't even know that. He was just insulting her. And then he finally chased. Nigerian women, they will remain in marriages for come rain come shine. So she was just there to say, okay, I am a married woman, until this man decided to chase her out of the house. Her kids were already in secondary school. She took them, gave one of the tenants quick notice. They moved out. She moved into her house. She was living large. Now this man could not pay the rent because he couldn't get more contracts. He couldn't pay the rent, and then he had to move in with a friend. So people were seeing this lady in this house, and then they called the husband and said, your wife is living large and you're squatting. What is going on? Why don't you go and reconcile with your... He said that is not possible. That is not his wife. Where? How? He now went to the place. They took him there. He saw the wife. The wife was decked. Now she could not hide anything. She was now dressing according to her bank accounts. He could not believe it. This man now called village people that they should beg his wife that he's coming back. He's sorry. She said no, that she's done. He chased out of the house, like she bared everything, and he had the guts to chase out of the house, that marriage is over. He was now going around telling people that the wife stole his money, all this thing he did, she took his glory, went to this one, do this one. Like, you could see how people just spoil their life because they don't want to work together. I see a lot of people who are in marriages, and when you don't see them progressing, you will know that these people are not working together. You see that one of them, this one is going south, this one is going west. They are just doing things, the woman is busy doing her own thing, the man is busy doing his own thing. They're not going to progress with that. And sometimes the woman just say, okay, if you don't want me to do anything, I will not do anything, I will just sit down. 10-15 years from now, you're going to see them still in the same place. The reason why I'm saying this is people should work together, whether married or not. If you're in a relationship with somebody and you can invest together, if the two of you can actually come together and have an agreement. I have co-workers who they are dating, they're living together. They bought a house together, like two of them. They and their partners, they bought houses together, and they just, here you have percentages. The money this person bring, they will do the percent. They will calculate everything and spell it out on that contract. Everybody will know what they brought to the table. Now, during the payment, you can either split it, in depending on how you agree to do the whole thing. When that is over, you can sell and move on. There was one of them who it didn't work out in that relationship, and she had to pay him out, from that arrangement. At the end of the day, he got money, she got money. But you see some people who just 10 years in a relationship, no improvement, no leave, no transfer, because they don't even want to come and work together. If you cannot come together and invest with somebody you're in a relationship with, is that a relationship? It's just, sexual transactions. Let's just call it what it is. So if that is what you want and it's a sexual transaction and you're doing your thing, she's doing her thing, then why are you angry that she bought a house and you're paying rent? Why would it be a problem? Now let me know, have you ever been in a relationship or in a marriage where you wanted your partner to invest in something with you and they said no? Did you go ahead to do that thing, or did you say, okay, I'm going to respect, my partner and not do that thing? If you did, how did it go? Were you successful? How did your partner later approach you, or what was his, what was his response, knowing that he said you should not do something and you did, and later it became successful? If you did not do it, did you have any regret to say, oh, I would have done this regardless? Let me know in the comment section. Now, today's episode is once again sponsored by DDBC's Wigs. Our details are on the screen. We sell wholesale, retail, and if you want to partner with us, we're happy to do that. Contact us and we get you sorted. Thank you very much for watching today's episode. Please like, and share. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.